Hey, what's up everybody? This is Oceanberg501 and today I want to go over the leaked legendary tier set for Pyromancers called the Torturers set in Outriders. Now before we get into the video, less than 5% of people that watch my videos are subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with all of my uploads. And just like all these other leaked legendaries for Outriders, we're not going to pay attention to the specific numbers on the items. We're mainly going to be looking at the mods and the tier set bonuses. And all of the legendary class tier sets in Outriders focus on two different abilities, whether it be through the tier set bonus or the mods on the armor pieces. And the first ability that this tier set focuses on is Volcanic Rounds. Fill your current weapons magazine with anomaly infused bullets that will inflict burn within a small radius and pierce targets, damaging enemies behind them. The skill lasts until you reload or switch weapons. And this skill can synergize very well with a lot of the other skills that the Pyromancer has, because there's even skills that do a ton more damage on burning targets. And then you also have your base healing ability on the Pyromancer that you have to damage something with skills and then kill them to heal a bunch. And this will apply that to everything very easily. And then it also pierces, which just adds a pretty big boost to just the general AoE damage that you deal with your weapon. And then the second ability that this tier set focuses on is Ash Blast. Great anomaly blast to inflict ash on all enemies in a large radius around you. And Ash is just a CC status effect. It immobilizes and stuns any enemies that are inflicted by Ash. But there's also some synergies, specifically with the Pyromancer, where certain abilities can work off Ash, and even some abilities with specific armor mods can also be changed to then work off of Ash as well. So the tier set bonus for the Torturers set is it triples the size of Volcanic Rounds damaging aura that surrounds each bullet. So all the bullets, when they hit something, apply burn to everything in a small radius around them. This triples it, which seems like it's going to be a pretty big radius. And also consider that the bullets penetrate. Say if there's a group of enemies in front of you, you shoot one of those enemies, it applies burn to all the enemies around, then it penetrates through, travels a little bit, and hits another group of enemies. It will also apply burn to all of those enemies as well. So this can essentially cause your gun to have multiple points of applying AoE burn. So this could very easily be an incredibly strong AoE ability and tier set. So first off, we have a Torturer's Mask, and the tier 3 for this is Death Sentence for Ash Blast. Your weapon damage and anomaly damage against enemies affected by the skill are increased respectively by 20% and 20% for 5 seconds. So this is a pretty big damage buff to this ability, because Ash Blast is just a AoE that applies ash to everything, but now you'll deal 20% more weapon damage and anomaly damage to everything affected by it. So it's just a pretty decent damage increase to all enemies affected by this, which also applies ash, so it stuns everything, so it's easier to do damage to them anyway. Then for the other mod, we have Armor Melting for Volcanic Rounds. Decreases the target's armor by 20% for 10 seconds. So this effectively comes out to be a general damage increase, but this can also be much stronger for certain targets. Like we have the armored up shotgun enemies in the demo right now, and this would be extremely strong against those. And I'm sure there's going to be other bosses and other elite enemies and stuff like that that are very heavily armored in the game, and this could be incredibly strong against those. And next we have the Torturer's Vest, and the tier 3 for this is Susceptibility for Volcanic Rounds. Decreases the resistance of enemies damaged by the skill by 25%. Now I'm not exactly certain how resistances are going to play into the different enemies, what enemies are going to have better resistances and stuff like that, but this seems to just be a pretty big damage increase once you hit an enemy the first time. It will definitely require some testing to see how good this is in general, but it seems like this is going to be a pretty strong just general damage increase to most things. For the other mod, we have Radiation Flames for Volcanic Rounds. Enemies damaged by the skill are afflicted with weakness. So this is now applying 2 status effects every time something is hit by Volcanic Rounds, and also take into consideration with this tier set and with Volcanic Rounds, everything hit by Volcanic Rounds will now be afflicted with burn and weakness makes them deal 30% less damage in a radius, and the bullets pen and hit additional targets behind them, which also then get hit by the radius of the volcanic rounds. And this will easily allow you to apply burn and weakness to pretty much any targets in a battle pretty easily. So I definitely think this is a mod that you're probably going to keep on and use with any build that's going to use volcanic rounds. Next, we have Torturer's Gloves, and the tier 3 for this is Introvert, increases the range at which enemies are considered to be in close range by 2 meters. Now, this doesn't seem like a mod I would generally keep on a lot of builds. It seems like something that would be much more specialized to a very specific build, because there are certain class talent points you can put in that affect damage at close ranges. There are certain healing effects in the game that work at close range, and I think there are some other mods and weapons that also have effects for close range damage. It's even a secondary attribute on some items, but in general, this doesn't seem like something that you would use unless your build is very specifically completely built around being at close range. And with that, if you have a build that is completely focused on close range, this mod is probably going to be something that is needed in a build like that. Then the other mod is Extinguisher for Ash Blast. Apply 41,000 damage to enemies afflicted by burn and consume the status. This is actually pretty cool and actually adds quite a bit of additional gameplay to, say, a build that is using this tier set and still using Ash Blast and Volcanic Rounds. Because just in general, the Pyromancer can apply burn pretty easily to enemies. Then with Volcanic Rounds, you're now having a big AoE effect on every shot that penetrates, that applies burn to everything. So now you can say go apply burn to all these targets, go up and Ash Blast them all, which will consume the burn, but also deal a pretty big chunk of damage to everything, and also apply Ash to them, which will stun them. So this could definitely be a pretty big combo ability mixed in with applying burn to everything. Next, we have Torturer's Waistcloth, and the tier 3 for this is Ashes and Leeches for Ash Blast. Using the skill, increase your weapon leech bonus by 40% for 6 seconds. So this is pretty massive for sustainability, and depending on how low you can get the cooldown on this may be something that you're able to have up 100% of the time or somewhere close to that. 40% weapon leech is pretty massive in Outriders, because since you're dealing a ton of damage, and it seems like damage scales a lot higher than the general health of your characters does, 40% leech addition on top of whatever other leech you have is going to be massive. You're probably going to be able to keep yourself at full health pretty easily with a 40% increase to leech most of the time. So I could definitely see this being in a build that has a lot of cooldown reduction, using Ash Blast and keeping this up 100% of the time, because Ash Blast doesn't even need to hit anything to give you this leech bonus. So this is a pretty strong mod depending on how much cooldown reduction you can actually get. Then for the other mod, we have Extra Mag for Volcanic Rounds. This skill is effective for 1 additional magazine before triggering the cooldown. And there's a mod like this for every ability like this in the game, because if I'm not mistaken, every class has an ability similar to this, like Blighter Rounds for the Technomancer, and then every one of those abilities has a mod like this. It's pretty strong, and on pretty much any build that uses one of these abilities, you're probably going to be using this. It doubles the amount of uptime you can have on this ability, and is a pretty strong buff to your build off a single mod. And then finally, we have the Torturer's Footgear. The tier 3 for this is Anomaly Echo. Grants 100,000 firepower and 90,000 anomaly power bonus on skill activation for 15 seconds. Like I said, don't pay attention to the actual numbers, but from looking at these leaked items and some of the officially shown items that are pretty high item level, it seems like this ability is going to give you a pretty big chunk of firepower and anomaly power. And take into consideration that this is on skill activation and it lasts for 15 seconds. I'm pretty sure baseline majority of the skills for majority of the classes in the game have a shorter cooldown than 15 seconds, and even with having some slight amount of cooldown reduction, you'll most likely be able to have this mod up 100% of the time. So this could easily be just a pretty massive damage increase that you don't even have to worry about, because your skills cooldowns are so low anyway. It seems like an incredibly strong mod actually for how much damage increase you're getting for essentially doing nothing extra. Then the other mod is Empowerment for Ash Blast. Skill deals an additional 59,000 damage. And again, don't pay attention to the number, but this seems like a pretty big damage increase and turns Ash Blast into more of a damaging ability, especially combining it with some of the other Ash Blast mods we went over with this tier set. It seems like Ash Blast can be turned into an ability that is just a incredibly high damaging AoE ability that then also stuns after dealing this massive amount of damage. So that is the entirety of the Torturer set for the Pyromancer. In my opinion, it's a really strong set. I like that they have sets that are focused on these weapon buffing abilities that I think all the classes in the game have. And personally, I think builds focusing on these specific abilities, Volcanic Rounds or Blighted Rounds for Technomancer, are going to be really, really strong just because of how often you can use them and how much uptime they're going to have. So subscribe if you want to see more Outriders or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this tier set, and thanks for watching.